Hey there, fellow wanderers, and welcome back to the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast, where the coffee's hot, the stories are real, and the wheels are always pointed towards the horizon. I'm your host, Stan Cromlish, coming to you from Bertie Bea, my trusty Tiffin Allegro open road with Rosie in tow and the open road calling. Whether you're parked lakeside, nestled in the mountains, or rolling down a back road somewhere out west, grab your mug, settle in, and let's wander together. In this episode today, we have a special guest. We have Doug Simcox of the Beyond the Chutes Rodeo podcast. Check him out. He's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. He's everywhere the Wandering Gypsy RV life is these days. Doug, welcome to Bertie Bea.
I love it, Stan. Great to be here today. And I got to tell you, I think I was your number one subscriber, if I'm not mistaken, your number one follower. And I have enjoyed the story so many times, and I really appreciate what you're putting out in the world right now.
Hey, thank you, Doug. I think you were the number one supporter, the number one subscriber, and the number one fan. But I have to say, it's all your fault for getting me into this podcasting realm. Congratulations, young man.
Well, thank you, and welcome to this wonderful world of podcasting.
Hey, I love it. And weekly, I try to tell stories. I don't just go with the how-to, although you've got a caterpillar on your shirt.
Oh, my. It came in from the outside. We're on the road, dude. We are living in the wilderness here today.
Yeah, okay. We'll move him in a little bit. That's going to make the podcast.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. A little creepy crawler.
Little creepy crawly. But no, this RV life for me is about telling stories. It's about the call of the high plains, and I know you had a chance to listen to that podcast where you actually heard me singing a little bit.
I did. And I think that should be part of every show you do, Stan. I think now, no matter what it is. And yesterday you were singing in the truck as we were hauling with my wife Laura and my daughter Kathleen, who's driving her Ram Dually. Ram Dually. She took it to Great Falls yesterday, and you were singing, so I heard your voice, and I heard you on the podcast. So I think it's got to be part of every show.
So maybe I have to do a little ditty. You know, The reason I'm called the Wandering Gypsy, as you well know, is the Billy Joe Shaver song. It's called Willie the Wandering Gypsy and Me. It's an old rodeo song.
Okay.
The opening line goes like this. 3 fingers whiskey, pleasure's a drinker, but moving does more than that drinking for me. Willie, he tells me that doers and thinkers say moving is the closest thing to being free.
Well, we ought to be free, my friend. We are moving.
We are. We are. And, you know, that is what is fantastic about this RV lifestyle.
Yes, sir.
Well, today, as you well know, I was fighting an electrical gremlin between Bertie Bea and Rosie.
Yep.
The battery would not stay charged on Rosie.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a trickle charger on Rosie. And today I figured out that there was maybe just a little corrosion on the pin.
Yes.
So took a little isopropyl alcohol and cleaned up all of the pins.
Yeah.
And then I applied some dielectric grease. Yeah. And the readings I got originally were 9.95 DC volts.
Not enough.
After all of that work, I'm now at 14.15 volts coming through everything.
Yes, sir.
And my trickle charger is showing 12.3 volts and whatever amperage it needs to keep the batteries charged.
You bet.
Mr. Caterpillar is walking all over our podcasting equipment.
Yeah, that's all right. He's just traveling a little bit here too.
Yep, as long as he don't lay no eggs, we good.
That's right. But you bring up a great point. If you're going to be on the road as much as you're on the road, and we're not, Lauren, my wife, and I, we're not on the road as much as you are.
Right.
We might be out for a month at a time, something like that.
Yep.
But you better be a little bit handy. You better have a few basic tools. And one of those basic tools, you got a lot of electrical systems in this rig of yours.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you do. And you have not only DC power, but you've got AC power.
Yes, sir.
And I try to monitor my voltage.
You got a lot of systems here.
Yes.
You do.
And I noticed you didn't have a surge protector, Doug.
No, not yet. But I've hooked up with the right guy.
Yes.
Okay. And some of the systems, and part of this whole life, number one, having the right tools, like you did. You had the right grease, you had the right screwdrivers, you had probably one of the most important tools you can have is that multimeter.
Right.
Being able to see your voltage so you're not guessing, you're not wondering, and shooting that continuity to make sure you got good throughput.
Right. You got, all of that. I've learned I didn't think I was as handy as I have figured out that I am.
You have to be.
You have to be.
And you just got to be willing, like yourself, to go, there's a lot of stuff you can find online these days.
Right. And today.
Yeah.
I went to Roadmaster and got their wiring diagram for the plugs that went between Bertie Bea and Rosie.
You bet.
And mapped that so that I knew where my ground was and where my power was.
Yes.
And once I did that, everything was good. I got to turn Mr. Caterpillar around.
There you go.
He can't. I don't want him going on the floor.
He's wandering again.
He's a wandering gypsy.
That's right. Probably a gypsy moth, maybe.
I hope not, because I just got rid of all the moths in here.
Okay. But one of the things, and I was listening to one of your first podcasts, and I might have had some influence in what the subject was, tire monitoring systems.
You asked for tire pressure monitoring systems.
Yes, sir.
And I run the TST 507 on my coach, and it monitors. Even though Rosie has built-in TPMS tire pressure monitoring system in the car, I can't see those tires when we're going down the road.
That's right.
So, not only on the 6 tires of Bertie Bea, but also the 4 tires of my Toad.
You bet.
And what's good about the TST is not only does it monitor tire pressure, it also monitors temperature.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I noticed on an early trip with Bertie Bea that one of her hubs was getting hot. It was
okay. Yeah.
Even the ambient outside temperature was 90, but this one hub this one tire was showing 160, 170. It's hot. So when I got to the campground, I had a tire service come, and they had to do a little greasing.
Yes, sir. Of your bearings and such.
My bearings on the back.
Yeah, for sure.
It was the driver's side inside tire.
Yes, sir.
So they had to come out. They jacked up Bertie Bea, pulled the tires off, checked everything, and found that the hub was having a problem.
You bet.
So they replaced the entire hub.
You bet. And Stan, as many miles as we drive and as big as these rigs are, you've got to keep up with your maintenance. You got to stay ahead of it. And really, it's no different than the businesses we have been in.
No.
In our careers, we've depended on data.
I depended on data.
Always through it, right?
Yeah.
So to be able to your point, be able to have something that you can set alarm on and say, hey, if this goes over 110 degrees, please let me know.
It is set for 140 degrees on all 10 tires. And 140 is, I read that somewhere. I'll make notes in the show notes of where I figured out that 140 degrees is the right temperature to alarm on.
Yep. And same thing with your air pressures.
Yeah.
Same thing.
There is a yellow DOT tag in the door frame that tells you take the coach over the cat scales. Do that at least once a year.
Okay.
If not more often, depending on what you put in your coach.
Now let me just say this. I have never scaled my rig.
Why not?
I just haven't. I didn't, I don't know. Not, and see, that's why I listen to your show and the importance of doing such things.
Yes.
Okay.
Because here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the axle weights are, on this coach there are 2 axles. On yours, I think there are 3.
There are 3, yes.
But you get the axle weights, then you look at you pull up your tire brand.
Yes.
You look at your yellow DOT tag.
Okay.
And it will tell you the optimal air pressure for your tire.
Okay.
And that optimal air pressure is what you should run all the time.
You bet. And I will do that. I will get scaled while we're out on this trip. I will get scaled. But I got to tell you, the peace of mind that tire pressure monitoring system has brought me has been intense. And let's see, I've got maybe 5,000-6,000 miles is all since I put that on.
Yeah.
But just the peace of mind of going down the road. And as I said, you get caught alongside the road and you got a flat tire, it's expensive. So if we can get ahead of that and we can manage that, and even if that tire goes flat, if we can manage where it goes flat,
right?
Hopefully in a big truck, in a tire shop somewhere,
right.
It's a perfect place for them to go flat.
So speaking of tires,
yes,
Bertie Beas are 5 years old.
Okay.
So the end of this year, I will be putting new shoes on Bertie Bea.
You bet. And I do the same thing. Okay. And my daughter's got a fifth wheel. Right. A horse trailer with living quarters, and we are just pretty bound and determined. You have enough of these tires that fail.
Yes.
And it seems like once they get 5-6 years of age, and you're not putting a ton of miles on them, so you look at the tread. Well, for me, right? You're looking at not a ton of miles, so it doesn't look like the tread's wearing down, and it's not. However, these tires get hot in the sunshine, and
UV breaks them down. I mean, I'm guilty. I have tire covers that I could go around and put on the tires.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, only when I'm at kickback do I put all my shades and all my tire covers on.
Okay.
Because I'm usually not at a campground long enough.
Yeah.
But, they say that you should put them on every time you stop.
You bet. And I agree with that. A lot of those shoulds that I'm learning more and more from you. And by the way, when you talk about Kickback Ranch down there in Raymer, Alabama, it's where you and I met.
It was
February.
At the Cowboy Reunion.
Absolutely. I was there recording, and you were there. You were on the show, and that's a cool thing about this lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's like rodeo, right?
Is.
Lots of travel up and down the roads and lots of great bronc rides and all that sort of thing. But what most of our guests speak about, and we do a lot of history of rodeo on our show, what a lot of our guests speak about are the relationships and the people that they met going down the road.
So, I met Jerry Todd back in 1993 at a rodeo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Little did I know that he would become one of my dearest friends.
Yeah.
But he is, without a doubt, he and Mindy, without a doubt, are the pure definition of a Southern gentleman and a Southern belle.
You bet.
They are absolutely two of the most wonderful people that I've ever met.
Yeah.
But, I met so many people that weekend, and I got to hang out with Marlon Harris.
Oh, Marlon, great friend of our show, by the way.
Yeah, he's been listening to mine, and, he commented to me last week on the phone that he would have loved to have come out and gone fishing.
Yes. Yeah.
But he couldn't work it out. But I told him down the road, we'll work it out.
He's a big fly fisherman.
I know.
Big, big, big. And I got to say, I love your fishing episodes. I absolutely love your fishing episodes. You know, I love the how-to stuff, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Helps me be smarter about going down the road.
Yeah.
But I love your descriptions and the ospreys flying in and stealing the fish.
Stealing my fish, yes.
Absolutely.
Stealing my fish.
Absolutely.
You know, being handy is one of the things that I've learned. I mean, but when I rodeoed, I was handy with, you know, we always say that cowboy's handy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the case of roping and bronc riding, it's how well they spur their horse or rope their calf or rope their steer. Yep. They're handy.
Yep.
But there's a handiness here, like on the 2016 Tiffin Allegro Open Road. There's a front cap separation that happens.
Okay. Yeah.
Due to how it's put together.
Sure.
It is a known thing. Okay, it is a well-known problem. And I did a YouTube video on how to fix that.
Yep.
But I had never tried anything like that. I had never cut sealant and removed sealant. So there was a case of nerves.
Sure.
When I did that.
Sure.
Because what if the knife slips and you cut up your piece of trim?
Yeah, absolutely.
Considering that it is color matched.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And all of the decal line, you know, all the decals line up. Let's pause here for a minute, and we're going to get him
outside.
Moved.
Should come back on. There you
Got it. We are now back to recording. We had to remove said caterpillar from the RV. He was making himself a little obnoxious.
He was.
But no, so when I left Dallas on this trip, if you look over at my TV, you see 5 brand new silver screws.
I heard that on your show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pay attention to all of the screws around windows.
Yes.
Screws around anywhere.
Yes.
Because it's amazing how much vibration.
If it's rolling, it's vibrating.
It's vibrating.
It just is.
And the roads yesterday,
Yeah.
I think I lost a fill-in or two on those roads.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we got on, we were on 89.
89, yep.
I think 87 coming back.
87 coming back through Lewistown.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about that run yesterday. What stood out for you?
So I, you invited me to go to Great Falls. I looked at it and said, it's 3 hours to Great Falls, but I'm not missing it.
Yeah.
There would have been a time, Doug, when I would have said, something, probably not today. Probably not.
Yeah.
But what stood out was, if you look back, they did the Corps of Discovery, the Lewis and Clark expedition, from 1804 to 1806.
Yes.
That is 220 years ago.
Yes.
Which is unreal to me.
Yeah.
And, we have, right now in the 21st century, you have internet wherever you go.
Yeah.
You have GPS.
Yeah.
You have all of the things that make your life easier.
Yeah.
But what I could not imagine is making an expedition like that into the unknown.
Yeah.
They had no idea what was out here.
No.
They had no idea what troubles they would run into.
Yeah.
They had the nearest help would be 2,000 miles away in St. Louis.
Months away.
Unlike today, when you can go. I came from Miles City to Billings on Saturday.
Yeah.
And it took me 2 hours and 20 minutes with Rosie and Bertie Bea.
Yeah.
To come that 145 miles from Miles City to Billings in 1804 would have taken a month.
Yeah.
Well,
That's right.
Well, let's maybe 2 weeks, because if they went 20 miles a day, that would be a week.
Yeah.
But they were traveling the Missouri River against
the current.
Against the current.
Yeah.
And they were doing it in the spring, which, what happens in the spring in Montana?
Yeah.
You get snow melt.
Yeah.
You get all of this added water running down. I was looking because I thought about going to fish the Yellowstone River, but it is flowing at 37,500 cubic feet a second.
Yeah.
And
that's fast.
I fished the North Platte last week at 3,750 cubic
10,
feet
11
a second.
times faster,
10 times faster.
Wow.
So, but they're on the Missouri.
Yeah.
And if, let's say the current was 15,000 cubic feet a second.
Yeah.
And they're rowing against that. 6 or 8 rowers.
Yeah.
They can't go that far and that fast because you would get exhausted.
That's right. And they said we're doing 20-some miles. Now, I picked back up. I'd read the book Undaunted Courage, Stephen Ambrose. Right? One of the greatest historians.
Yes, he is. He is wonderful. He wrote about the Band of Brothers, wrote about D-Day, wrote about, Stephen Ambrose was a historian's historian.
Yeah. No, excellent. To pick it back up and to be, we were at Fort Benton yesterday after we came out of Great Falls.
Yep.
And we'll talk about Great Falls here in just a little bit. We were in Fort Benton, and they spent a lot of time in that area. There was no such thing as Fort Benton back there. That wasn't built to 1846?
1845, 1846, the height of the Oregon, the migration to Oregon on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah. So I was reading about that kind of in anticipation of our trip, and they spent a lot of time up in that area, Stan, trying to figure out, because the Maria River flows in from the north.
Right.
And they were trying to figure out, and it's a big river, and so which is the Missouri? And the orders from President Jefferson were, you follow the Missouri all the way to the headwaters.
Yep.
Okay? And they spent about 2 weeks. They split their corps. One corps went up about 50, 60 miles up into the Maria River, which, by the way, I think is named for Lewis's cousin.
Yes, okay. I believe you're right.
Okay. And then they had another crew that went down what became the Missouri River.
Right.
But they said there were, at that time, I think about 35 people on this trip, and everybody but Lewis and Clark said it's the North River, which was the Maria River. As it turned out,
it wasn't.
It wasn't. The Missouri River was off to the left, if
because
you will.
Was it the Mandans or the Hidatsas that told them that you will know you're on the Missouri when you get to the falls?
To the Great Fall.
To the Great Fall. Right. Oh, they used fall singular.
Singular.
But what we saw and learned yesterday was there were 5 of them suckers.
Oh, and these are big falls. The tallest one was 97.
Yep.
97 feet. There was pictures. Of course, now they all have hydroelectric dams on them. But I read this morning, Stanley, that it took them about a month to portage around those 5 falls, and it was a 17-mile distance they had to cover. And they had, I believe, the one pirogue. They had one because they'd stowed the other one, and they'd stowed a bunch of their stuff.
Right, they
cached it.
Back then, just for people to understand, you didn't have banks, you didn't have general stores out here, you didn't have anything.
Nope.
And the only way to make sure your supplies were safe was to map and find a hiding place and dig a hole, wrap your stuff very well in waterproof.
Yes.
Back then, it probably would have waterproofed it with a buffalo hide or a elk hide, or out here there's elk, buffalo, mule deer, and antelope.
Yes. Yes.
So, but they would have wrapped it in a hide that they had tanned and waterproofed.
Yep. Yep.
And put it in the ground.
Yep. Yep. And getting around those falls, they said around Fort Benton they could get a glimpse of the Rocky Mountains.
Okay.
Now we couldn't see from there yesterday.
It was hazy and smoky.
Yeah, smoke coming in from Canada, right? For
right.
all the forest fires up there. So we haven't actually seen the Rockies here yet.
No.
And we should be able to see them definitely from Great Falls where we were.
Right. We should have been, but the wildfires, that's right now. We are in the wildfire season.
Yeah.
In the western United States. Every year, I can say that my 2020 trip was derailed. I was going to California to visit USS Arizona survivor Lou Conter for his 99th birthday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But there were wildfires in and around Grass Valley, and it behooved me not to cross the Tahoe and go up to the Targhee Pass and go into California. So at the end of my 2020 trip, I just cut south and went to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
But what always gets me out here is the distances. And if you're not in a town or a city, how desolate is the wrong word,
wow.
but it is empty.
Yeah.
It is empty.
Yeah.
So the miles and the space that you can travel out here without seeing another soul.
Yeah. Well, you look at that yesterday. I mean, even coming out of Roundup,
right.
which is about 50 miles from here, I don't think there was any services, meaning no fuel, no nothing. No nothing. And in a lot of places, no cell phone tower, no coverage.
I saw 8 or 10 times yesterday when I picked up my cell phone that it was via satellite.
Yep.
Because there was no cell coverage.
Yeah, that's right.
In 2020, I was on a trip, and this couple got lost on a road in Nevada. Mm-hmm. Got completely lost and didn't have... Obviously, there was no cell coverage, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. nor was there any, emergency services.
Yeah.
They were found 28 days later, and they were both deceased.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
But their family knew they were lost,
yeah.
and they were trying to find them.
Yeah.
But there is so much space out here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I carry is called a SPOT, S-P-O-T, satellite tracker.
Okay.
It sits up front.
Okay.
It's in my console. It's not cut on, but I have that for these, and I have service on it for the simple thing I can cut it on, and I can push the 911 button.
Oh, okay.
And it sends a GPS signal for where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah.
And it would notify my parents. It would, and let them know that Stan's in trouble.
Okay.
To me, that's part of the RV life. Mm-hmm. You've got to plan for every contingency.
Yes.
You have to, my mom jokes that I probably have too much stuff in my refrigerator and freezer. Yeah, she's probably right. I probably do have too much food in it. But if I were to get stranded somewhere, as long as I've got a full tank of gas, mm-hmm. I've got a generator.
Yep.
And I always at least keep, as I showed you today on my water tank, I have half a tank of fresh water.
You bet.
Why would why would I do that? Mm. Because you don't know what you don't know out here.
That's right.
You really don't.
That's right. Yeah. To your point, and I loved your episode about checklists,
right,
and all that.
Right.
You got to be prepared, and you got to be able to run down the road. And
yes.
as we said at the opening of the show, you better be handy.
Yes, you better be handy.
You better be.
But seriously, I've got the spot tracker for for that. It's it's kind of like bull riding.
Yeah.
And when you own an RV, it's kind of like bull riding. It's not if it will happen, right. It's when it will happen.
Right.
And things happen at the most inopportune times.
You bet.
I got into Miles City on Thursday and went to put my vanity slide out.
Yeah.
And it hung up.
Yeah.
And so I followed the Schwintek procedure. Yes, Schwintek is the manufacturer of the slide rails and the slide motor.
Yeah.
With a Lippert Schwintek controller, and there is a syncing process.
Yeah.
So I synced it, and then when I got here to Billings on Saturday, it went right out.
You bet. And one of the things that's impressed me is you have, as you've done your shows, and we've gotten to know each other, and some of the conversations we've had, you've spent a lot of time in seminars learning the systems on your rig.
Yes. So let me talk about that a little bit. The Family RV Association, of which I am a member, and I highly recommend that if you are a RVer, join the Family RV Association. It's $99 a year, but what you get is the opportunity to go to an international convention. This year, they were in Perry, Georgia in March. I went to Perry. There's one coming up in July in Gillette, Wyoming. Due to other constraints on my time, I won't be going to Gillette this year. Mm-hmm. But the next one in March is again in Perry, Georgia. At Perry, they have a class called RV Basics. Mm-hmm. Gary Sippa, Steve Ray, and Eric Britz teach a class, and they go through electrical, water, sewer, propane, fire safety.
Yep.
How many fire extinguishers do you have in your coach, Doug?
I have one. I'm coming clean, dude.
You're coming clean. I appreciate that.
I took one out before I left because it had lost its charge.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But I've been thinking about that. I ought to go and while I'm here, we'll do some research. You can point me at some things.
Okay.
And you've been through the coach, so you kind of get a sense, know, where we should locate them.
Yes.
That and smoke alarms and all those types of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how many do you think I have in here?
I would guess, knowing you, and I'm going to say it's less than 100, but I would say, knowing you, 4?
4 is right.
4 is right. Okay.
1 is right there.
Okay.
1 is under. No, there's 2 underneath my kitchen sink because the propane stove is right there.
Yeah.
And
it's fires or whatever it might be.
Whatever it is. 1 is in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And 1 is in the bay right behind my propane tank.
Yeah.
Why would I put 1 there?
Yeah.
Because it's handy for if Rosie happens to have a brake line fail and a fire, I can, as I'm going out the door, I can grab it and hopefully save the car.
You bet.
Or if there is a catastrophic propane leak and, I'm out the window, I've gotten my I have to grab that fire extinguisher, I can then come back in the door and see if I can fight it.
You bet.
But fire safety is a biggie.
You bet. Oh yeah, I've got a friend and a friend and his wife. They have a fifth wheel, and a couple years ago we were in Edisto Beach, hanging out, and there was a grease fire in the coach, and I mean it went up the wall super quickly. I mean like that.
Instant.
Very, very quick.
Yes.
And fortunately, Tom had a fire extinguisher and was able to get it put out.
Right.
And there was some damage, of course.
Right, obviously.
But But, I mean, you didn't lose a rig. Nobody got hurt.
No.
No possessions were lost.
No.
But, man, knowing where that fire extinguisher was I mean, what else are you going to do? Look around for a blanket and try to figure it out? I mean, to your point.
At that point, you've got to know. In the lower right-hand corner of the kitchen, of the cabinet for the kitchen, and all I've got to do is pull it out and push the button.
You bet. No, and that's one of the things we want to work on.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's one of the things we want.
The big thing for me with this podcast is education.
For sure.
Education.
For sure. Yeah.
Because you may not have known this, but I'm an Eagle Scout.
Oh, really? Yeah,
yes.
I didn't know that.
So
always be prepared, right?
Always be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is prepare for any eventuality.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, I have a pre-trip checklist that I go through, and I got caught with my pants down.
Literally, Stan?
Not literally.
Okay.
Not literally.
All right, because that can happen sometimes.
Well, you know, in Nebraska, when I first got Bertie Bea and her water pump failed.
Yeah.
I did literally get caught with my pants down.
Okay.
Because I was in the shower and I was all lathered up, and there ain't no water.
Yeah. You better know about your plumbing system at that point.
Yes.
Back to your education. So I'm a fan of that.
So when I ran my pre-trip checklist leaving Meridian, Mississippi, I pulled that slide in. I noticed that a ton of water came off of the slide topper.
Yeah.
But I did not pay attention, and when I stopped for gas, the top of that slide was out about that far, and the metal had gotten behind it.
You bet. Pinched it in. Absolutely.
Pinched it in and gave me about a 30-degree angle.
Absolutely.
And I beat myself up. I even recorded a video.
Yeah. How to be patient when you're letting the water drain off your toppers.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
And I saw water drain off of it again, and I said, you know something? Pause.
Yeah.
You've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
And then when I pulled it on in, everything was good.
Yeah. Well, I have been an example of a few things. I have, you know, the whole, I don't know, in your water heater. I don't know if you're familiar. There's a rod. I forget what it's called.
It's called an anode rod.
And as it turns out, that's supposed to be changed more frequently than every 20 years. And I just learned this.
Yes, you did. You did learn that because you ended up with a completely corroded water heater that you had to replace.
I had to replace. I did.
Because you had not replaced your anode rod.
But it's $14 to replace it, Stan.
Well, $14. Hey, it's cheaper than $500 for a new one.
Oh, it was more than that. It's an 8-gallon, so it was a bit more than that.
Yeah, it's a bit more than that, but you know, $700, $800.
Yeah.
But you know, for $14, there again.
Yeah.
What have I talked about? Cheap insurance.
Yeah, that's right. Now, one other thing, you talk about cheap insurance, and you turned me on to it. I'd heard of it before, but the RV software, RV Life
Trip Wizard.
Yeah.
Which is a RV trip planning tool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to probably be doing a YouTube video because that is more of a visual thing you need to see.
You bet.
I'm probably going to go through RV Life Trip Wizard and do a hands-on tutorial.
You bet.
Because for me, one of the questions I get asked often is, how far in advance do you book campground?
Yeah.
And on this trip, everything up to here, I booked in March, April, early May.
Okay.
I booked. You know, I knew I needed to be in Alcova for fishing.
Yeah.
I knew before retirement that I had to go to Dallas to work. So I planned the campground in Dallas.
Yeah.
I planned the campground in Kit Carson.
Yeah.
And I planned the state park in Sterling, Colorado, where I met my friends. Then I planned Laramie and Alcova.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't think you and I put this together until early May, Doug, to meet here in Billings.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So it was about May 10th, May 15th when I booked the Yellowstone River Campground.
Yeah. And you booked it because we'd already booked it.
Yep, I'd booked it to be near y'all.
Yep, and you're 2 slots down.
Two slots down, which is perfect.
Yep.
But the rest of the trip, I haven't booked.
Okay.
I've booked where I'm staying Wednesday night.
Thermopolis. Okay.
And it's in Wyoming.
Yeah.
And I'm going to the Tiffin Rally in Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Okay.
And I'll get there on Thursday. And I'll spend a week. I'll record some podcasts. And just need to plug the new podcast that I am host of. Is On the Road with Techno RV.
Yeah.
Michael Kilborn and I are partnering on a podcast, and our first episode's out. Our next episode is coming, and what we're going to talk about more on that podcast is gadgets, tools, tips. On the Road with Techno RV is going to help you adventure more and worry less.
I like that. Yep.
So, got to plug that podcast.
Yeah. And back to the RV Life. Is it RV Life?
It's RV Life Trip Wizard.
Yeah. So, and I do that on my laptop, of course. But the cool thing is it's all done up online. So I sign in with my phone and it says, oh, today is June 5th. You're wanting to run from Rapid City to
Belfouche
Shore. Yeah. And do you want to run that now? And what I like about it, I put in my length and my estimated weight, and my width and my height.
Height is critical.
Height is critical. I got to tell a story. I do a rodeo reunion down in Mountain Cove, Georgia. Okay. One of the most beautiful places you can be.
I'm going this year, Doug.
Absolutely. Labor Day weekend, Marlon Harris. We're back to Marlon.
We're back to Marlon.
Absolutely. He hosts this. I think this will be the 11th year. We went in last year, met a lot of great folks there. But I just running a normal GPS, and I'm a little over 40 foot long, right? Running a normal GPS, it said, oh, turn here. You're only 2 miles from your destination. And I turn in, and this is no center yellow line.
Whew.
Okay, so it's blacktop. And I don't go a half a mile, and here is this. To say it's a 180 is not correct. It's probably a little more severe than that.
Yeah.
And I got in trouble. Okay?
Okay.
And I mean, I'm out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. There's trees all the way around me. Thank goodness Rusty was there. I had cell phone service. He come in and helped me out. We got the rig out. But there were 3 more corners after the one I got stuck in, and I literally had to do 3-point turns to get around these things. So sharp.
With you're 45 feet long?
45 feet, yeah.
Were you towing a trailer?
No.
Okay,
no,
so you were
thank
just
goodness.
45 feet.
Absolutely.
So that is where the RV Life Trip Wizard GPS on your phone comes in handy.
Yes.
Also, I run a Garmin 895 on my dash.
Okay. GPS.
GPS. Okay. I don't know if it's an 895. That sounds like the airplane model.
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
But I run a Garmin GPS. This is going to sound crazy.
Yeah.
I run 3 different GPSs.
That's a lot of systems, yeah.
I run 3. Yeah. I run the one that's in the radio, the Garmin, and RV Life Trip Wizard.
On your phone.
On my phone.
Yep.
And, going into Miles City, if I had come through town, hit the first exit, Bertie Bea would have been minus some air conditioning.
Absolutely. You get to these overpass or
11,
underpasses.
it was an 11-foot, 5-inch underpass.
Not going to work.
And not going to work. It would take off the top foot of the windshield and everything on top.
And when we're running rigs this big, especially when you're towing, you better know where you're going. You don't want to get caught in a place where you got to turn around or you got to unhook in your case because it's hard. You ain't going to back that car up very far.
Nope, you cannot. I have cheated a little bit, and the furthest I've backed it up is about 5 to 8 feet.
Yeah.
Because any further, and you're going to jackknife it. It's just
and yeah, so being careful where you get, knowing that you're safe, and that can be height of a bridge you're going to be under,
right?
Weight of a bridge you're going to be going over.
Yep.
It's real easy to get in over your head really, really quickly. So
and
the RV lifestyle, that GPS, it's a safe GPS based on the rig you're driving.
That's it. That is safety, and the big thing about this lifestyle, Doug, is you need to pay attention to all the details.
Yeah.
And, RV Life Trip Wizard is one of those details.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting in, Bertie Bea is 13 feet, 8 inches tall.
Yeah.
And that is to the top of a cell phone boost antenna.
Okay.
She is 13 feet, 6 inches to the top of the air conditioner.
Yeah.
So the way and I ended up in Washington State, there was a underpass with 3 different height signs on it.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side, it was 13.5.
Yep.
In the center, it was 13.8.
Yep.
And the right-hand side was 13.6.
Yes.
And I was stuck in the right lane. And I said, I'm 13.6. I'm going to go 2 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Because what happens if you hit a bump?
Oh, yeah. No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And I moved over. I smudged over into the next lane.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the car let me over.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that in a minute.
Oh, my goodness.
We need to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But you've got to know your surroundings.
Yeah.
You've got to know what's safe. You've also got to know when to move, when to make a change.
Yeah.
I was in Kit Carson, Colorado. I posted this video of the wind sustained 40, gusting to 70.
Yeah.
And what I ended up having to do in that instance is these slides all have canvas slide toppers on them.
Yep.
And they're under pressure. But with that amount of wind, they were billowing up and billowing down. And at some point, if you've ever watched a flag in a hurricane that goes from beautifully pristine to ripped to shreds, that's what I was concerned about with my slide toppers. So I pulled them in.
Pull them in. You bet. Yep.
I could suffer overnight with limited space in here.
Sure.
But
expensive if you got to replace them.
They are. I replaced them in Perry. I replaced all 4 of them. They were $1,400 from Shade Pro. No, $1,400 for all 4 of them.
Oh, just for the but you're just doing the fabric.
Just doing the fabric.
Okay,
just doing the topper fabric. It was $1,400. Shade Pro came out. That's another benefit of these RV rallies.
Okay.
In Perry, the windshield on Bertie Bea had about 39 rocks hit it.
Yeah.
And it had some spider cracks and all of that. So at these rallies, they have services there.
Okay.
And so I had the windshield replaced. I had the slide toppers replaced. But I also got education.
Yeah.
That is the thing.
Yeah.
The YouTube videos are great. But the hands-on classes that the Family RV Association puts on, but there's also other associations, and there are brand, I'm going to a Tiffin rally.
Yeah.
So Tiffin's a brand.
Yeah.
I'm going to their rally,
Yeah.
and they'll have educational seminars.
Yeah.
But there's also regional rallies. I told you I was going to Pocono International Raceway in September.
You bet. You bet.
So at that rally, Gary Sippa's wife, Sue, is the president of the Penn Coachman FRVA chapter. But they do education.
You bet. You bet.
But the rallies are where you meet people.
Yeah.
You know, I met you at a cowboy reunion.
Yep.
But it's just, but the rodeo lifestyle and the RV lifestyle, I'm going to go back to it, Doug.
Yeah.
Those lifestyles lend themselves to friendships and relationships.
That's right. That's right.
Because we're all RVers are going down the road.
Yeah.
Whether you're a weekend warrior, you go 2 times a month or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
You are just as important to me as me going down the road full time.
Yeah. 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 That's right. That's
and, I have met some wonderful people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, sitting out here today, I had a gentleman up out of Farmington, New Mexico, comes up here every year, and he's working 40 hours a week in the campground here. And he'll be up here for the season, and then they head to Arizona for the season.
Right. That is what is known as work camping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, and you were going to allude to it. If you're going to drive these big rigs, okay, you better learn how to drive them properly.
That is correct.
Okay, I mean braking distance.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if you're jumping in here, going to drive it like you do your car, you're in over your head very, 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 very quickly.
It's like it's like a high school kid running his hand in a bareback rigging on Virgil.
Okay, great bucking horse.
Great bucking horse. I mean, Rocker Steiner was 92 points on him.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that is the high school kid has no business riding Virgil.
Right.
And if you are not going to treat your rig with some measure of safety.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to go back to the Family RV Association.
Yeah.
They have an RV driving school.
Yeah.
And they're offering their RV driving school in Gillette.
Yep.
So it's 2 days.
Yep.
And they teach you all about driving your coach, and they put an instructor in the coach with you and they take you out and they give you tips and tricks and all of that. For me, the biggest thing I see on the road, and I'm pretty sure you do too, is it takes from 60 to 0, it takes at least 3 or 4 football fields if I have to slam on brakes.
You bet. To shut her down. You bet.
And at that point, everything in the coach has done moved.
Yeah, that's right. So you've got to drive so defensively and drive so far down, so far in advance, if you will.
Yes.
And there's this phenomenon. I'm not sure what it is, but I always run right lane.
I set cruise at 65.
That's about what I do. Yeah.
My Roadmaster tow bar is rated for no more than 65 miles an hour.
Okay.
And so if I'm driving my car, I'm going to go 70 on 90. Okay, on I-90. I'll go 70. I'll go 75. I may go in the car.
Yeah.
But I'm still using my RV driving distance judgment.
Yeah.
I'm still staying that same RV distance away.
Yeah.
And how many times have you been in the right-hand lane and you're coming up on, there's a semi-truck in the left-hand lane, you're sitting here, and that Nissan Altima
does the zigzag.
There's like 50, whatever there is.
Yeah.
And that little Nissan, and then crosses over 3 lanes to exit, and that you're blowing by.
Yep.
And then slams on brakes.
You bet. No, you've got to drive ahead. You just do.
Yeah.
And I run right lane, as we said. If I'm moving to the left lane, and I always move over for that anybody that's broke down on the side of the road. Okay.
Guys, people, wanderers.
Yeah.
If you're on the interstate, or you're on the highway, or you're on a city street, give them room.
Yeah.
Give these folks room.
Yeah. Move it over.
Yeah. I've a scary story. I was on I-10, and I broke down in Bertie Bea. The transmission pan had a leak, and when I looked in my rear view mirror,
you had smoke.
I had a metric ton of smoke. As I walked out as I got it pulled over to the emergency lane, got it stopped. To tell you how much smoke I had, I grabbed the fire extinguisher by the door as I was leaving.
Yep.
But I can't tell you how many cars blew by me.
Stayed in that right lane.
In that right lane.
Yep.
The big trucks moved over.
Yep.
The big trucks were courteous.
Yep.
But you four-wheeler drivers, you need to be courteous too.
Well, and to that point, you really don't understand it if you're four-wheelers. You think I can bounce in and out, no big deal, right? And for whatever, there's this phenomenon, I'm not going to get behind this motorhome or whatever it is. But have that perspective. Ride with somebody that's got a motorhome sometime. You don't have to go very far to see a lot of crazy driving.
No,
right?
You don't.
Around you.
No, you don't.
I've got a story coming. Let's see. I was coming into Columbus, Ohio on 71.
Yep.
Okay. I can see about a little over a quarter mile ahead. I'm running right lane. I've got a car broke down. I got somebody standing on the roadside of that car. Okay. Flasher.
Lord.
Yeah. Flashers are on. I've got a car hanging out on my left quarter.
Yep.
Okay. I flash over. I've got a lot of lights, so I flash over, and this car accelerates to come around me. All I needed to do, and I went over as far, it's only 2 lanes, I went over as far as to straddle the center line.
Right.
This car had to pass me on the breakdown lane.
No.
Yeah. So on the left side, had to pass me.
Right.
So intent, I guess, in getting around, and all you had to do was just let me, and all I did is come to the center, gave this car room, right?
Right.
And the problem is, if you don't move over, somebody's following you close behind you, they may not even see that car.
They can't see the car because, as we said, we are... In my case, I'm 55, 56 feet long, counting the car.
Yeah.
And I'm 13 feet tall.
Yeah.
And you've got a little, I can't see Rosie in my rear views, in my mirrors.
Yeah.
The only way I can see Rosie's in the backup camera.
That's right.
So, I was in Missouri on I-70.
Yeah.
Coming east out of Kansas City, going towards St. Louis.
Yeah.
And when people are coming on ramps, I move to the left-hand lane so that they have a place to merge.
For sure. Yep.
Well, I let 5 cars come on the interstate, and I move back over. Well, I had made this pickup truck guy mad.
Okay.
He goes around me.
Yeah.
And then locks up his brakes.
Yeah.
And I have a video of it where you can hear me squealing tires.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And I thank the Lord that nobody plowed into the back of Rosie.
Yeah.
I was in my previous RV, my 32-foot Class C.
Yeah.
But... I just thank the Lord that nobody plowed into me.
No, that's exactly right. And when you run the rig this big, you are watching your mirrors as much as anything when you are rolling up.
Right.
You know, I put my flashers on as quickly as I can because odds are they aren't going to see around me. So they may not realize quarter of a mile down, I got brake lights.
Right.
Right? I got brake lights. And there's this phenomenon. I might be clear in that quarter mile. There's nobody between me and that braking distance.
Right.
And I don't know if you ever noticed, all these cars start to fill up all that space because they'll merge from the left lane to the right lane. And now all your braking distance is eaten up yet again. They just fill in the spaces.
They fill the space. Road construction is another one where, you know, I can see a half a mile ahead or 3/4 of a mile ahead that we are merging to the left-hand lane.
Yep.
So I'm going to start merging back here at 3/4 of a mile.
Yep.
And it's inevitable. It's a phenomenon, as you say.
You bet.
I have all these cars come blowing by me and then get right up to that merge point.
Yeah.
And it's almost an moment.
Yeah. Well, I will admit, and this probably isn't completely proper, but I'll stay in that right-hand lane and I'll pull her way down. Okay.
Yes.
So they're going to be they're going to be inclined to pass me on the left, stay in the left lane.
Right.
They can't see around me, so they don't know what's ahead of me.
No.
But I will do that, and what we'll find is that will unbreak this bottleneck that happens right at that arrow.
So, so what I have done is, if I get lucky and there's a semi truck that comes up, I'll open my window and say, I will ride parallel with you.
You bet.
If you will let me in.
You bet.
When we get to the merge point.
That's right.
And 9 times out of 10, if they will do that, and they appreciate that, because it keeps all of these folks
keeps you moving.
Keeps you flowing.
I'd rather run 25 mile an hour without the stop and go and just run 25 mile an hour. Get me out of this darn. I got a clutch in my truck, so I'll just tell you.
Yeah, well, I'm automatic.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't get hemmed up. I don't have to be anywhere in a big hurry.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, if you are living this lifestyle, you're not living it on a time clock.
That's right.
I mean, I did live it on a time clock while I was working.
Sure.
But I would make sure that I would get where I'm going on a Sunday.
Yep.
And I'd be ready to work on a Monday morning.
Yep.
But I didn't have to get there Sunday afternoon till 3 or 4 o'clock. So if traffic was miserable or stuff was miserable, you just dealt with it.
You bet. And we're talking about motorhomes, you and I.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks out there, I look at these gorgeous fifth wheels around here.
Oh, I mean,
some of these are 15 feet tall?
At least 14, 15 feet tall.
Yep. And then the lifestyle we come from, the rodeo lifestyle, how many cowboys and cowgirls are running up down the road pulling those
big horse trailers.
You bet.
I mean, you know, we were going to Great Falls, and every one of the gooseneck horse trailers I saw had a hay box up top.
Yeah, that's right.
That adds another 2-3 feet to the height of their trailer.
That's right. Yeah. So
but they would be well served with RV Life Trip Wizard. They would be well served with the TPMS systems. You know, and most of those horse trailers have living quarters in them.
Oh, they do, absolutely, and they're out for weeks at a time.
Right.
So all the things you talk about, you know, between checklists and, you know, something as simple as where do I pick up my prescriptions? I'm going to be out for a month. Where do I get my prescriptions? Where do I get my mail? Where do I get my packages, my Amazon packages? Because we're all addicted to that, right?
Right. So I ordered from Amazon, and Amazon has 2 ways you can get your packages. Most campgrounds will receive your packages for you.
Oh, they will?
Yes, they will.
Okay, good to know.
But you have to call, you have to tell them, and all of that. But also Amazon has what is known as Amazon lockers, which are pickup locations in a town or a city.
Okay.
So I ordered some temperature sensors, which I'm going to show you later.
Yeah.
What I need them for.
Yeah.
And I showed you my freezer underneath.
Yeah.
That's what I bought my temperature sensors for.
Okay.
So that I can monitor the temperatures. In that.
Okay.
But Amazon delivered to the locker here in Billings.
Yeah.
I got the notification on my phone. Your package is here.
Okay.
So I went and picked it up, came back.
Nice.
Everything was good.
Nice. Yeah.
So you can do that. For prescriptions, I'm on a prescription plan or healthcare plan that requires that I use the CVS pharmacy.
Okay.
CVS has a network.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, I rolled in here. My doctor had called in a prescription.
Yeah.
And I had him send it to the Billings CVS.
Okay.
And I picked it up Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there are several mail services out there that will receive your mail and open it and scan it for you.
Yeah. Okay. And send it to you.
And send it to
bills and that sort of thing. Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yes. And I will put some information about those services in the show notes.
I like that.
But management, a.k.a. my mother, everybody in Belmont knows her as management because that's what I call her.
Okay.
She manages everything.
Okay.
She gets my mail, and we have informed delivery, so I can tell her what to open, what doesn't need to be opened, just file it.
Yep.
And she'll send me pictures, just like the mail service that you would get from one of these other service providers.
Okay, I did not know that. Okay.
And, when I stay at Kickback, everything's right there in Montgomery.
Okay.
I mean, I get my packages right there at Kickback.
Yeah.
But I'm only there 2 or 3 months a year.
Yeah. No, that okay. And other than that, you're on the road. You're somewhere all the time.
I am somewhere all the time. If management and assistant management weren't going to Europe this summer, I'd probably head on out to Idaho and Utah after I get done at the Tiffin rally.
Oh, you would? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm headed home because they're going to Italy and Greece and Croatia on a cruise. And at 83 and 84 years old, they need someone to program their cell phones.
Oh, okay. So you're going back to do that.
I'm going back to make sure they have international calling, make sure they have everything they need so that they can stay in communication with my brother and I.
Okay.
And then, my summer's pretty much still full. I'll go to Kickback, then I'm going to Ringgold to the rodeo, then I'm going to Mountain Cove and Marlon Harris's Cowboy Reunion.
I'll see you there.
And then up to Pennsylvania to the Penn Coachman Rally.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
Yep, that'll be a great time. I will get to take Rosie around the Tricky Triangle again.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Last October, I took Rosie around the Tricky Triangle, 2.5 miles.
Yeah.
And we did about 80 miles an hour.
That's, yeah.
But they have a stock car racing experience.
Yes.
And you can either ride with an instructor or drive yourself.
So what are you going to do?
I drove myself last year.
Okay.
And
how many laps they give you?
8.
8 laps. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes.
That's a lot. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many G's you pull in the corners.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And my top speed on my last lap was 162 miles an hour down the Long Pond Straight.
That's fast. You bet. That's fast.
And, when you lift going into the corner, it's like you've just put out a parachute.
Yeah. Oh, really? That much of a difference?
That much of a difference.
Okay.
But those are some of the fun things about this RV lifestyle.
Yeah.
You get to see so much beautiful country.
Yeah.
You get to see so much history.
And meet so many great people.
Heck yeah. I mean, I've got a story to tell. I met a couple in a campground in Tucson, Arizona. And the reason I met them was Tucson was where the FRVA rally was in 2022, my first RV rally. And I met them because they had just started putting the placards in their windshield for entry into the fairgrounds for the rally.
Okay.
And I walked up to him and I said, now I understand how to do that.
Yeah.
Because it was my first rally. I had no clue.
Okay.
Had no clue.
Okay.
So, and now they are two of my closest friends.
Isn't that
they
fun?
live in Louisiana.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
With this podcast, I'll mention some names. I won't mention others.
Sure.
And the reason is privacy.
Yeah.
I've got permission from my buddy Rowdy and my buddy Brian and my buddy Doug to mention names.
Right. Anode rods and all that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And, Brian calls, I was Mr. Botangles that first fishing trip.
I heard that story.
Yes.
I did.
I caught everything, including the trolling motor.
Yeah.
But what have we not covered?
Oh my! Maybe a little bit of what you talked about. You're going to end up on the East Coast.
I'm going to end up on the East Coast,
and then head back, kickback. What do you think?
So what I'll do is I will go to kickback. Then I'm going to the Ringgold Rodeo. Then I've got July 20th and 21st. I'll be in Red Bay, Alabama.
Okay.
Red Bay is the home of Tiffin Motorhomes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I get my annual maintenance at the Tiffin Service Center and Precision RV. Precision, I'm taking Bertie Bea in, and they recommend every 36 to 48 months to check your sealant on your roof and strip it and reseal it about once every 3 to 5 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Because UV light, everything breaks down.
Yep.
And it flexes, it moves.
Yep. Rubber membrane.
Yep. So that week of July, I'm going to get Bertie Bea's oil changed. I'm going to get her roof stripped and resealed. And I'm going to get just whatever niggling, aggravating problems. I've got a 15.5 air conditioner and heat pump on the front. And I've got a 13.5 AC only on the back.
Yeah.
I am thinking of replacing the back air conditioning with another 15.5 and heat pump.
Okay.
Because even Alabama gets cold in the winter.
I see. Yeah.
And I would like to have 2 heat pumps.
Yeah.
Because then you don't burn as much propane.
That's right.
And you say, why is that a big deal? You're burning propane. In motorhomes, unlike fifth wheels and travel trailers, your propane tank is permanently mounted.
Yeah.
So in order to fill up with propane, you have to unhook everything and take the rig and go to the propane store and fill it up.
Yeah.
So I would much rather have a way to heat the rig.
Yeah.
In the winter.
With electricity, right? With electricity.
Yeah, with electricity.
Yeah.
And this RV is pretty well insulated.
Yeah.
It was down in the 30s coming, when I first started this trip, it was early May.
Yeah.
And I got to Amarillo and woke up, and because it was like 75 degrees during the day.
Yeah.
Overnight, it dropped to 37.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the heat pump on.
Yeah.
And I woke up to a coach that was 55 degrees inside.
Okay. Yeah.
So cut the space heater on, cut the heat pump on, and pretty quick I was at 65, which is comfortable for me. Put on a sweatshirt.
Yeah. And we haven't had to worry a lot about heat because we're typically driving in the summertime.
Right.
You know, we typically do. And it's more about how do we keep her cool.
Yes.
But I think as we expand our travels just a little bit, I think it would be wise. And I've been looking to add heat. I've been looking at, there's some diesel-fueled systems that a guy can add in.
There is the Aqua Hot system, which is, runs off of diesel. And when you do that, you would replace your hot water heater too, because the Aqua Hot system is both hot water and heat.
Okay.
But you'd have to duct it. And that's the other thing you have to do is, run the heat ducts.
You bet. Yeah. But from a fume standpoint and all that, no big deal.
No big deal.
Okay.
No big deal.
Yeah, it's probably where I'll head. I'll do a little research, and if you happen to do any research, you want to do a show on it, please do that.
We will. Yeah. We'll do a show on it. Because your rig is not a standard off-the-shelf motorhome.
No.
Do you want to tell the story of your... What do you name? What's your rig's name?
I think if it had a name, it'd be BAM. B-A-M.
B-A-M? Okay.
B-A-M. That's an acronym. B-A-M. Yeah, I put it on the road. My son and I put it on the road in 2005.
Okay.
So back then, I was doing a lot of announcing from horseback, announce rodeos like Jerry Todd does.
Yep.
And so having to haul horses and horse trailers. And I'd been running we ran a smaller GMC diesel 24-foot motorhome. Broke a lot of transmissions.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, my. I got pretty good at swapping transmissions, and I could do it in about 2 hours. And we were at a dog show, and my wife was showing dogs at the time, and there was a couple there that were driving a Renegade. So Freightliner front end.
Freightliner chassis.
It was an FL70, I believe, so one of the small, not a tractor. And I went in, knocked on the door, and said, "Can I see?" And I went through it, and I remember sitting there going, "Is that a generator running?" And it's a diesel generator. You could barely hear it. Mm-hmm. And they were set up, and they could haul. They were hauling a big old cargo trailer full of dog stuff.
Right.
And so I started, at the time, we were just moving into Michigan.
Yep.
The family and I. We were about 2 hours from Elkhart, Indiana.
The RV industry capital of the world.
That's right. Anything and everything.
Right.
And so I actually went and visited the Renegade factory.
Okay.
And I got a tour and got to see how they were
And
building.
that's a Super C.
Super C.
That's a Super C.
Yeah.
Had the bed over the cab.
Yep. And I had more time than money.
Right.
Okay. And decided that I couldn't spend the kind of money it took even to buy a used one. Stan.
A used one of those is in the $100,000 to $125,000 range, $150,000.
Yeah.
And up.
Yeah, and I think I had about $3,000. Okay.
Okay.
So we a friend of mine. So we started looking for FL60s and FL70s.
Okay.
And there were two things that we discovered. Number one, very few of them are on air ride.
Right.
And to run sprung right instead of airbags.
I am springs in Bertie Bea, and I could for $25,000.
That's all. That's only money.
It's only money.
Yeah.
I could upgrade to liquid springs and have an air ride suspension on Bertie Bea.
Yeah.
But I can't justify the expense.
It's expensive. It does. It is. And whatever we could find, number one, if it was air ride, it probably had 500,000 miles on it.
Right.
Okay. And a friend of mine at the time said, "Why don't you go look at buying a tractor, just a regular semi? They're a dime a dozen," he said.
Yeah.
Right? We went to Canada and we looked, and you really got to be selective of what you're looking at, because most semis aren't going to be set aside until they got 1 million miles on them.
Right.
Okay. And that's kind of the rule, 1,000,000-mile motor, right?
Yep.
That engine. And started looking around a little bit, and we just moved to Michigan and come home one day, and parked alongside the road was a 1992 Volvo semi that had a 24-foot cargo box on it.
Almost perfect.
Almost perfect. So I stopped and crawled in it and looked around. It had 225,000 miles on it.
Low mileage.
As it turned out, original miles. It really did.
Yep.
And I thought, well, maybe I could make over the cargo box. What could I do? How could I do this? And fortunately, and a lot of this is in Elkhart is who you know.
It
right?
is, and it goes back to something you said earlier. You gotta be a little handy.
You gotta be handy. You do. So I got connected with a job shop.
Okay.
That was building aluminum frame walls, insulated, fiberglass reinforced plywood on the exterior, and wallboard, whatever, you wanted, 1/4-inch wallboard, printed, whatever.
Right.
And that's what they did. They built walls. Okay? They were building them for Monaco coaches.
Monaco's a great name.
Absolutely.
Brand name
Class
coach.
A, you bet. And they were building the roofs, and they were building the floors. They were a job shop. They didn't have a product of their own. Okay?
Right.
And so I got connected with them, met the guy, and he said, how many of these you going to build? Right? Because everybody he's doing business with,
they're building 10, 20, 30, 100.
That's right. And I said, well, I'm not sure this is going to be the prototype, I said. And he drew up the prints.
Okay.
Just like you would for a house.
Right. You have to have engineering drawings.
Absolutely. And where you want your slides, where you're going to put your cabinets, because everything had to be built to it. And got to where I got to know these folks, and they designed it. We ended up going... It was stretched originally for a 24-foot box, and we had to stretch another 6 foot, which is a natural additional drive line piece, drive shaft.
So I'm sitting here looking out the window at your coach.
Yeah.
From the front of the hood to the tail is 45 feet.
Is 45 feet. Yeah.
But your living space is 30 feet.
Is 30 feet. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then, from the get-go, we said, well, we want to pass through so we can walk from the cab. It's got a sleeper cab on it.
Right.
We pulled all that stuff out. Air ride cab, so we had to deal with, can't be a solid piece, which starts to limit, can we go over the top of the cab?
Right. You can't at that point.
No. And we wanted to keep all the air ride on it.
Yes.
So got with this organization. They built me walls and floors. They built me trusses. There's 17 trusses they built that mount directly to the frame. Okay. Worked with a small company up there to stretch the rig. When I bought it, I couldn't drive it because I don't have a CDL. Okay. And we put it all together. They shipped the walls and the roof and the floor and everything up. And my son and I and his friends, we assembled it over the summer. And we knew we didn't want a lot of RV furniture and that sort of thing.
Right.
Okay. So we put in a 2-burner cooktop that we bought from a kitchen store in Grand Rapids.
I saw your stove. I really like it because it looks like it's really easy to clean as compared to mine.
Okay. Yeah, glass top.
Right? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and
beautiful.
You got to store you take the grill part of it off, store that while you're driving. There's a convection microwave oven, so we don't have to have a traditional oven space. And the cabinetry, walnut and cherry, my son and I built.
Yes.
So we designed all that before we ever took delivery of the box.
Right.
And we assembled that box, put it together, put it in its shape in about a half a day.
Okay.
But then it took us about 2 weeks to drill and drive all the screws that connects the roof to the sides to the corners,
and the floor to the trusses.
Yes.
And how often, so your rig is a do-it-yourself rig.
It is. But it's not. I have to be careful because somebody say, "Oh, did you build that yourself?"
Well,
and,
you didn't build it yourself
right.
because you had a RV manufacturing job shop.
Yes.
Build you the components.
Yes, that's right.
Kind of like building an experimental airplane.
Similar, yes. As I'm learning, yes.
Yes, I mean I know you're building an airplane.
I am.
So yeah, handy.
Handy. And I'd done enough, my son and I'd done enough construction and demo, and so we understood electrical, we understood plumbing, we understood, we had some base requirements that we had to have. We were doing a lot of announcing at the time, right. So you're going in, get in some of these arenas, tight quarters, getting in. Didn't want a lot of height to the rig, but still wanted 7-foot walls inside,
right.
So you had a sense of space.
Yeah.
And we originally started with a basement air conditioner, and ran that for about 10 years, maybe even a little bit more than that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, real nice little unit, 2 compressor and the whole bit. But ultimately, that needed to be replaced, so we went back to the roof mounts because now we're not doing rodeos anymore. Yeah. So we, a little bit more traditional.
RV.
Yeah.
But you have the same problems I do. You run into, you have to make sure you change your air conditioning filters or clean them on a regular basis.
Did that today. Absolutely.
Yes.
You bet.
You have to sanitize your fresh water at times.
And that's one of the things I picked up from our conversations. I think you're going to do a show on it. Calgon, bath beads.
I was talking fresh water.
Oh, you're saying fresh water. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so fresh water.
Yeah.
About once every year, unless you're like me, who's using his fresh water twice a week, 3 times a week, and I'm cycling water through. If you're not cycling water through your freshwater system, you need to either have someone sanitize your freshwater system,
okay,
or you need to do it yourself.
Okay.
I saw on the news this week where this lady died from she used a neti pot with water from her fresh water tank, and ended up with a brain-eating amoeba outbreak in her.
Yeah.
So it got me to thinking, I've got so many filters on this RV.
Okay.
I've got a triple water filter outside. It pulls the sediment, it pulls the chemicals, and it pulls the bacteria and the viruses out.
Okay.
Before it
even gets to your tank.
Even before it gets to my tank. Plus, then there's an onboard water filter.
Okay.
That when you fill up your freshwater tank, it's going through all of those filters.
Yeah.
Before it hits the freshwater tank.
I see.
And then it's going back through the onboard water filter when you're running your water pump.
Okay. Yep.
And then if I get the water I'm drinking is filtered water out of my refrigerator.
Okay.
So, people say don't drink the water, and I'll drink my water in my RV.
Because you got the filtering
I got the filtering system.
Yeah.
But now let's get to the black and the gray.
Yeah.
So, plagued by odor?
You can be, yeah,
you can
right?
be.
I mean, just sitting and the the longer it sits, right? And just any bit of agitation.
It will start an odor.
Yep.
But I was introduced to Clean Tank, which is a service that comes out, and they use high pressure water to clean your black and clean your gray tanks.
Yes.
And they have a mixture. I've read everything from you need to get the chemicals that break down the break down your poop.
Solids. We'll call them solids.
Break down your solids. Break down your solids.
Yeah.
And break down your toilet paper.
Yeah.
But we're not running. What the biggest thing that Clean Tank said is we're not running a septic system.
Right.
A septic system needs to break everything down.
Yes.
You are running a holding tank.
That's right. Yep.
It's a holding tank.
Yep.
So they have a solution of 8 ounces of Calgon, or 8 ounces of Pine Sol. I'm sorry, 8 ounces of Pine Sol.
Yes.
And 4 ounces of Calgon.
Bath beads.
Bath beads.
Yes.
In a 32-ounce bottle. And you fill the rest up with water.
Yep.
You mix it up good.
Yep.
And you put 8 ounces of that mixture in your black tank, and you put 8 ounces of that mixture in your gray tank.
Yep.
What does Calgon do? It's a surfactant. It sticks to the surfaces and lubricates the surfaces.
Okay. Yep.
The other thing is, don't leave your valves open on your tanks.
Yeah.
I had a buddy.
Yeah.
He stayed at Kickback.
Yeah. Might be my buddy, too.
I think he's your buddy, too.
Is he my buddy, too?
He's your buddy, too.
Okay.
I won't name any names.
No.
But he left his black tank open.
Just trickled out all the time.
It trickled
into his sewer hose.
Into the sewer hose. It trickled out all the time. But what was building up?
Yeah.
All those solids.
Yeah.
And he ended up clogging up his tanks and clogging up his hose.
Oh, my.
And he had a little overflow in the bathroom.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, yeah.
So he had to call a clean tank service.
Yep. Blow it apart.
Yep. And he had. I was on the road at the time, or I would have gone and helped him.
Yep.
But he called me and said, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
Well, for starters, close your black tank valve.
Yeah. It's all about velocity, right?
It's all about water.
Yes.
Fill it up.
Hydraulic pressure.
Yes, hydraulic pressure.
Yeah.
So, you know how often I empty my tanks? I wait till they're at least two-thirds full.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason is, all of that volume of water, when you open that gate valve, it's going to force everything out under pressure.
Yes.
And so, once or twice a year, I get my tanks professionally cleaned.
Okay, yeah.
I don't have any odors.
Yep.
I don't have any smells. My sensors, when I empty them, they read empty.
Yeah.
And in my first coach, I didn't know any better. I never had sensors that read empty.
Yeah.
I always had 2 dots on the black tank, and there wasn't anything I could do about it.
Yeah. But you get that power wash, get those sensors cleaned up, and then that concoction,
you keep it clean.
Concoction lubricates them so that,
And you use enough water.
Yes.
You use enough water.
Yes.
So, the thing about this podcast is there's so much you learn on the road.
Yes.
There is so much you learn on the road.
Yes.
And my goal is to share that knowledge.
For sure.
And, there are days I think I'm a pretty good teacher.
Yeah.
And there are days when I would flunk the student.
Well, yeah, and that happens.
Yes.
It does.
Yes. Roadside assistance. Do you have roadside assistance?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
It's basically roadside assistance is there for when you have an emergency.
You bet.
And really, I have no recommendation for. There is CoachNet out there. There is Good Sam out there. There's AAA. There are FRVA has roadside assistance as well. I've got the FRVA roadside assistance. I've got Good Sam, and I had CoachNet. But I firmly believe in being prepared.
Yeah.
Because how much does your rig weigh?
I'm going to say upwards of 35 to 38,000.
Okay.
I'm going to weigh it on this trip.
You're going to weigh
it? I will. Yeah.
So, Bertie Bea weighs 23.5. And you mentioned that you didn't have a CDL. Do you have one now?
No, don't need one. It's
Once
registered.
it becomes a recreational vehicle.
It's registered as an RV. It absolutely is. Now, I don't recommend just anybody go do it.
No.
Okay.
No.
Meaning get a semi. You got shifting. You've got air brakes. You've got all the things that it takes to maintain.
And it's the same thing if you go buy a diesel pusher.
It is. And I mean, some of the bigger rigs are air ride for sure.
Yeah.
But I grew up on a farm. I grew up driving a lot of corn to market in pretty big trucks.
Yep.
You know, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. But no, once the whole process was once we got it built, there's certain requirements it has to have to be an RV. You got to be able to cook, you got to be able to sleep, you got to be able to use the bathroom.
And it's got to be self-contained.
Self-contained. And we had the Sheriff's Department, Hastings County up there. We had the Sheriff's Department come out. And they said, do your lights work? Your windshield wiper work? And she took a quick tour and says, okay. And it now, from this point forward,
it's now titled as an RV.
As an RV. And my insurance requires that you be at least 21 to drive it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but my daughter and my son both have driven it, you know. And I'm always sitting in the right seat with them and can talk to them. And,
And I mean, so Kathleen's a wonderful driver.
Oh my goodness,
Doug.
yeah.
She drove us, heck, all over half of Montana yesterday.
Yeah, we were out. We left at 8 in the morning. We got back at 8 o'clock at night.
Yes.
And we just saw some wonderful territory. So she's been a great hostess with us out here. And she's been out here since September.
Okay.
So she's learned a lot about the area, and I got to say, I agree with her. Beautiful, beautiful place to live.
This always keeps sucking me back.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado, Wyoming, and if you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast I recorded titled "Call of the High Plains."
Yeah.
You will understand why this area keeps sucking me back.
You bet. No, that's exactly right.
But, it's been great having you today.
Thank you.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And I invite your listeners to, there's a lot of miles, a lot of windshield time when you're doing the kind of driving we're doing. And our podcast, of course, Beyond the Chutes, you can find us, as you said, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. It's everywhere, right?
Yep. I mean, the Wandering Gypsy RV Life is on iHeartRadio.
Yep.
It's on Spotify. It's on every distribution channel it can be on.
You bet.
If you can't find it, drop me a line at wanderinggypsyrvlife.com.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a hoot.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and I'm going to put this on the recording. I wonder how many episodes we've got in the hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, I don't know. I on mine, I put them up full tilt, man. I don't piece them apart them very often.
I will probably put this one up full tilt.
Okay.
And it will be by far, by an hour and a half, the longest podcast I have recorded.
So far. Next time we get together,
it may be 2.
We'll shoot for 2 hours.
We'll shoot for 2.
Which I think is going to be over Labor Day.
It'll be over Labor Day in Mountain Cove.
Yep.
We can sit here at the dinette, sipping coffee.
Yeah.
And, maybe we can even get Marlon.
Oh, he always will come on. He's always got great stories.
Marlon has great stories. Yeah. And, maybe we can get him to talk about fly fishing.
Oh, he's a huge fly fisherman.
Yes.
Yeah.
He pointed me in the right direction when I was up at Talona Ridge in North Georgia at Ellijay.
Yeah.
He pointed me to some great fishing.
Yeah. And speaking of such things, we have an episode that we recorded. So Sam Swearingen's my partner on the show.
Yep.
And he and I recorded with one of the mountain men on the History Channel.
Oh, wow.
Tom Orr. Okay.
I know who Tom Orr is.
Bronc Rider comes out of Illinois. Check out that episode. We've got about 139 shows that we've put up so far.
Yep. This will be episode 12 of the Wandering Gypsy RV Life.
This will be 141 probably for us. But yeah, a lot of guests and a lot of history, and I think your listeners will enjoy the show if they tune into it.
I think they will too.
Yeah.
Besides podcasts, what do you listen to going down the road?
Almost 100% podcasts. Almost 100%.
I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I have an Audible subscription.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
For books on tape.
Books on tape. I have an Audible subscription.
Okay.
And I listen to J.A. Johnstone. He is old school Western in the ilk of Louis L'Amour.
Okay.
And he has series after a Mountain Man series. He has. And so I'm listening to J.A. Johnstone's and William W. Johnstone Westerns going down the road.
Nice. You bet.
Occasionally I will listen to music.
Yeah.
But then I will listen to a book. Then I'll put a podcast on.
Yep.
And Beyond the Chutes is my podcast I'll listen to.
Nice.
You've had some great episodes here recently with Sid McFarland, Jerry Todd, Sid McKissick.
Yes.
And then one of your older ones with Wendy Ratchford of Longhorn Rodeo.
Ladding, you bet. And Wendell Ratchford.
Wendell Ratchford,
And notice, all these names.
And what's funny is I know most of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully everybody does or gets to know them as they listen to the show. But Jerry Todd, he's certainly started out as a rodeo competitor, but he's a very well-known rodeo announcer out there.
He announced the International Finals Rodeo, I don't know how many times.
2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
He did, absolutely. Sid McFarland, he's a rodeo entertainer. His son, Trent McFarland, we did a show with him. So it isn't just rodeo cowboys and just rodeo cowgirls. They're all rodeo cowboys, I should say it that way.
Yep.
Right, not just competitors though.
But contract
acts, rodeo secretaries. Dan Again, you want to hear a story? Dan Again, one of the top rodeo secretaries going down the road these days, right? We had a wonderful episode with her. Rockin' Robbie Hodges, Hollywood Harris. Man, just it goes on and on. And
I hate you didn't get to do a podcast with Miss Dottie and Terry, Mr. Terry and Miss Dottie Hayes.
Okay.
Dottie was a longtime pro rodeo secretary, and they passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But they could tell you, they could have told you some stories.
You bet.
They could have told you some stories about Jerry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Jerry and them were great friends.
Yes. Yeah. And a little bit of what we've been doing, we're kind of like country western singers. We put out an album, and then we go on the road and we try to promote it.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So kind of old school that way. So we do a lot of rodeo reunions.
Right.
We were down to Jerry's, and Mindy's down there at Kickback Ranch. We were up King Brothers Rodeo Reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Got an episode coming out on that here pretty quick. Up in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain Cove. We went up to New York State. A lot of rodeo cowboys come out of New York State. Mike Swearingen. We were up there.
Swearingen, 2022 PBR World Champ.
Absolutely. And his father. Oh, and just in a movie, we got to plug that movie.
Oh, yes. So Dalen was in the movie The Last Rodeo. It's a Angel Studios movie. I went and watched it while I was in Laramie. It's a cowboy movie. And if you've not seen it, I can't recommend it enough. It is a great movie.
You bet. And
it shows the cowboy lifestyle, even the warts and all.
Absolutely. And Dalen, great friend of the show and great friend of ours. And, of course, his dad, Sam Swearingen. So we had a little bit of the inside track and understood a little bit as he was shooting the movie. Mm-hmm. But I was surprised. I had no idea the speaking lines that he had and just what a great job he did. First-time actor, but pure bull rider. Absolutely.
I joked, and we got to ask Sam about this. why in the world did Dalen need 2 stunt doubles?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I think the fighting I don't want to give it away.
No.
Okay?
No.
We don't want to talk about any
no spoiler alerts here.
No
spoiler alerts.
We don't want to give it away. But no, really, really highly recommended. And I think it was December of 2024. We sat down. Sam and I sat down with Dalen.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
He was riding a bull riding there, and he sat down with us on a Saturday morning. We got to spend a couple hours with him. So
awesome.
That episode's out there as well.
I have not listened to that episode yet, but
Yeah.
but I will.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about the relationships you make on the road.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've got friends from my rodeo days that they see on Facebook. I'm in KC, Wyoming. Stan, I'm in KC. Why don't you come see me?
Yeah.
And, or I put out that I am going to be somewhere. I have 13 dinner engagements.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And
yeah.
And I love it. It's the friendships. And, when you get in trouble, it's those rodeo friends you call.
That's right.
Because they will drop everything,
Yep.
or they will know someone where you are that will drop everything and help you.
You bet. And that's what we try to get across on the podcast.
I know.
Those relationships, those experiences, those adventures.
Yeah, it's all an adventure.
It's all there.
I was saying, somebody asked me why I did this. It's because I want to see and you asked me this yesterday.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this RV life?
Yeah.
I said, because I am called to see what's over the next horizon.
I love that.
I think I said that to you yesterday.
You did.
I want to see what's over that next horizon. I want to see what adventure I can get into.
Yeah.
And it's not all glitz. It's not all glamour.
No.
There are days when you are in a hurry to leave and your slides don't come in.
That's right.
And it's pouring rain. You get wet. But it's an experience.
It is.
It's an experience.
Every bit of it. There's a saying, can you enjoy the destination if you haven't enjoyed the journey?
You can't.
It's all a journey.
Yep. And I just want to close with this.
Yeah.
We've got to remember, not all who wander are lost.
Yeah.
Because I'm not lost. I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And, that's what you should look at life.
Yeah.
You got to know where you've been and to know where you're going.
Yeah.
And every day's a new day.
Yep. Eyes wide open.
Eyes wide open, my friend. Thank you, Doug Simcox, for joining me today. And I look forward to connecting with you on the road. That's going to do it for today's episode, fellow wanderers. If you enjoyed riding along, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you want to see the adventures unfold in real time, be sure to follow us on YouTube and connect on social media. Just search Wandering Gypsy RV Life on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Until next time, keep your campfire warm, your coffee strong, and always remember, not all who wander are lost. See you down the road.